Welcome to the NC Spin After Spin. Additional comments from our panelists just available on our website. I want to ask each of you, what do you wish you'd have said last week on the show, but you didn't get a chance to? Chris, I'll start with you.
Well, we talked about the redistricting and the legislators' move to sort of change districts and local governments they don't like. This, it's not exactly falls into this category, but a little bit this feels like another battle between the governor in the House and the Senate. On the Greensboro one in particular, the governor has made comments around the state that the General Assembly should stay in its lane, stop interfering with local governments. There's some Republican members of the House, as I mentioned on the show, who believe at least there ought to be a referendum before they change the Greensboro City Council districts. Not everything in this General Assembly can fit in that category, but this is another one of those. There's a clear divide between the Senate on one side and the House leadership and the governor on the other side. And I think we're going to continue to see this, and I think this will be a very contentious budget session, which will drag well on in the summer because of that divide.
The schism gets worse before they pass a budget.
It keeps popping up in many other areas, so it's going to stay there.
Rufus, what do you wish you'd have said on last week's show?
Well, right along the line of what Chris said, I wish the Supreme Court would hurry up and decide these separation of powers issues so the pettiness can get over with the legislature holding up appointments, the executive branch overreacting. Separation of powers is a mess in North Carolina. Nobody seems to pay any attention to it, and it's embodied in their Constitution. And come on, Supreme Court, hurry up. Give us some guidance.
All right, so if you're sitting on that board, how are you voting?
Well, it depends on which case you're talking about. Now, I'm
backpedaling on me.
Okay,
here,
well, I'll do what I gave a ruling when
separation of powers.
When I was Attorney General, I gave a ruling that legislators sitting on the Advisory Budget Commission was unconstitutional, and the court backed me up, and I almost lost my car over it because Billy Watkins hated me.
Connie, what do you wish you'd have said?
I wish I talked a little bit more about transportation and legislation down at the General Assembly. Back in 1996, I ran the highway bond bill, and it was actually a very controversial bill because everybody wanted to make sure that they had their roads in there.
Yeah.
It started out as a $600 million bond bill and ended up as a $950 million bond bill. And for something to pass the General Assembly, it's going to have something for every area of the state to make people feel comfortable. And with the way that transportation reform has occurred, that's not kind of how things are done right now. I think you'll see something in the House coming out more like that. I don't know where the Senate's going to be. But the legislature took great leadership on the gas tax issue, last month, and how they've dealt with it. And there's major reform changes that need to occur so that our state can continue to grow economically.
So more lights and ornaments on this Christmas tree before it goes to a vote?
It's one thing to get legislators to vote on a formula. It's another thing to get voters to vote on a formula.
John, what do you wish you'd have said?
Well, we were talking about the various local government redistrictings done by the legislature, cities, counties. Just like on that issue, I think on other changes that are going through the legislature, even if there is a partisan intent, I still think you look at the actual merits of the case. Like, I think it makes sense to break up some of the large county commission races into districts with an at-large component or something. Similarly, I'm a fan of making school board elections partisan. If we're going to elect significant boards that do significant things at the local level, then we need to give voters real information. And every time I hear someone say, well, education shouldn't be a partisan issue, they don't believe that. Education is the primary issue in governor's races. It's the primary issue in legislative races, county commission races. Of course, education debates have a partisan component.
Just because somebody is a Republican or just because somebody's a Democrat, does that necessarily
It tells you something about what their policy might be, other than just voting for somebody because their name sounds familiar. Party labels are information. To take those off the ballot, prevent people from having that information, is a bad idea. We need voters to have more information, not less.
Well, thanks for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.